Pokemon Legends Arceus advertised action and RPG coming together to form one great Pokemon experience, and that is what they gave us. As advertised, the noble Pokemon boss fights have action and RPG elements in them, and together, they made for some challenging boss fights. Well, some of them. I would say there were 3 that were really easy, 3 that were really hard, and 1 kind of down the middle that was, average. And I'm saying 7 in total because though there are 5 noble Pokemon, there are 7 boss fights that come in the style of having action elements and RPG elements mixed together. Technically, it's 8 different Pokemon and boss fights, but I'd say one of them is pretty much exactly the same, so we're gonna say it's 7. And if you're worried about spoilers, as long as you've beaten the main story, I'd say you're fine to watch this video. There is one fight in this video that's gonna be post-game, but I'd reckon that it's not that crazy. It's kind of expected if you catch my drift. So as long as you've beaten the main game, you're fine to watch this video. And with that, let's talk about the nobles, weakest to strongest. Starting off this list, we have the Lady of the Ridge, Lilligant. Unfortunately, our only lady is on the bottom of this list, and that's mainly because Lilligant's moves are very, very easy to dodge. It's by far the easiest one. I don't think I got hit by a single one of Lilligant's moves ever, and I don't see many people ever getting hit by Lilligant's moves at all. I've seen some people get hit by the other nobles, but not Lilligant. And on top of being very easy to dodge, Lilligant has a quad weakness to flying, so when you get into the actual Pokemon battle, if you just hit it with a flying type move, it's gone. And at this point in the game, most people will have a flying type Pokemon on their team, if not at least a flying type move, because a lot of Pokemon do learn Aerial Ace. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, all of the starters can learn at least one flying type move. I will say, the Lilligant boss fight did make me like Hisui Lilligant a lot more. I'm a big fan of regular Lilligant, wasn't a big fan of Hisui Lilligant, but the boss fight and seeing the way she moved and all, it did make me like Hisui Lilligant a lot more, so there's that. But it definitely has to be the easiest. I don't think there's any way to go about it. But another one that's super easy is, of course, the Lord of the Woods, Kleavor. Now, the reason why I have Kleavor above Lilligant is because I feel like it's more easy to get hit by Kleavor's moves than it is Lilligant's. These two you can really interchange, and that's going to be happening with a few different nobles, as you'll see. But in my opinion, Lilligant's weaker and Kleavor is a bit tougher. Lilligant confuses herself by herself. Kleavor, you have to get him to hit the tree, and then he'll confuse himself and you can throw the bombs that way. Now, this isn't a difficult task by any means. It's very, very easy. But it still is, it doesn't happen automatically. Lilligant just falls confused flat, right? Kleavor, you have to do it yourself, and then you have to dodge. On top of that, Kleavor, as far as I'm aware, does not have a Time Sword weakness. Most people will have a water type Pokemon at this point, like either Buizel, Oshawott, Dewott, maybe Bibarel. So you'll be good to go there, but besides that, Kleavor's weaknesses are only Rock and Steel. You could carry Geodude, sure, but I don't think many people will have a Rock, Steel, or Water type move. And if they have Water, they just have a few Pokemon with those moves. So it's just like, Kleavor doesn't have many weaknesses compared to Lilligant. And Kleavor, again, I think is just harder to dodge than Lilligant. It's still relatively easy, mind you, but it's just slightly above Lilligant, I'd say. Now here's a big shocker. I'm putting Origin Dialga and Origin Palkia at the number 3 spot for easiest. I know, the lords of time and space themselves, the gods of time and space, but let's be real, they were really, really easy. I think this was easier than pretty much the other 3 nobles for sure. Maybe I'm doing them a disservice, but hear me out, right? Their attacks are super easy to dodge. I don't remember having any sort of difficulty with them, and they kind of just stand there. The bombs you can throw really easily at them. The other 3 nobles at least have some kind of protection around them so that in certain situations you can't attack them with the bombs. But Dialga and Palkia just lets you, you know? They simply have their guard down and you can just attack them at all times. And their attacks, again, aren't that difficult to dodge in my opinion. There's not really much to say about Dialga and Palkia. Yeah, their origin forms are kind of cool, I guess. The Palkia's is cool, Dialga, I don't know about, I'm sorry, man. And you know how cinematic it was and how cool it was that even though you have one of the legendaries, the other legendary appears with a new form. That and all was actually really, really cool. And on top of it, their theme is amazing. They got like techno, a choir, and along with the original Dialga Palkia theme, it's crazy. But they're really, really easy. And on top of all of this, they give you the other legendary dragon, right? If you face Dialga, you have Palkia. If you face Palkia, you have Dialga. So you have a kind of counter to them on your team, regardless of what. So I'm gonna put it here at number 3. It's the third easiest noble fight in my opinion, and I don't think that's an understatement by any means. Coming in at the spot right down the middle, it may be mid-tier in its fight, but it is 100% the one with the best story overall for any noble Pokemon. We have the Lord of the Isles, Hisuian Arcanine. Now, Arcanine, in my opinion, should be the next one over, because I personally had more difficulty with this than I did with the next one. But I've seen what people have to say, and it's only fair for me to put Arcanine right down the middle, and not any higher than this. Now, Arcanine, I personally had struggles with Arcanine because it was really hard to move. There wasn't much space around, and the way Arcanine came charging at you, it just gave very little room to dodge. Now, after seeing some videos, I realized that no matter what, if you time your dodge perfectly, even if you touch the fire, it will just like, the animation will play out where you have some invincibility frames and you won't get hit. And that's how you're supposed to time it. So when I fought against Arcanine, my timing was just off slightly. But regardless of what, I feel like the limited movement in this fight is what makes the fight a bit more difficult than the others. And on top of that, as I was saying with Dialga and Palkia, Arcanine does have some time where it is very difficult to hit, and it has some protection. We also have to acknowledge the fact that yes, Arcanine has 2 quad weaknesses to ground and water, and at this point you probably have that for sure. So it's definitely not going any higher than this as much as I wanted to. But like I said, hey, best story by far. That story, Hisuian Arcanine, slaps. That is the best and probably the most memorable noble Pokemon between the 5. I'd say. Next up, the first of the nobles that people actually complained about and said was pretty difficult, we have the Lord of the Hollows, Hisuian Electrode. Now here's the thing, right? I understand why Electrode seems difficult, because it was for me at first too. But then I realized if you just have some patience, Electrode just might be one of the easier ones, which is why I wanted to swap it with Arcanine. For Electrode, all you need to do is focus on dodging all of Electrode's attacks, and then when it self-destructs or it gets confused, that's when you throw the bombs, and it just becomes so easy. It's probably going to be the longest of the noble fights, but if you're just patient, it's pretty easy. Now, to be fair, there is an element of randomness and sporadicness to this fight, because all the Voltorbs are dropping and you don't know where the attacks are going to be. That's, I think, the one thing that startles people and gets people kind of like, oh, what's happening in this fight. But if you just don't try to rush anything, I feel like this fight gets really, really easy. Because again, once it gets confused, which it will automatically if you dodge everything properly, it'll self-destruct, you throw some bombs, you get a Pokemon out there, you're good to go. You just have to rinse and repeat that. It'll take a while, but you rinse and repeat it, you're set. Of course, the green ball thing that charges at you is pretty annoying. That it scared me a bit, I can't lie. Because it was like tailing me, you know what I'm saying? It was right behind me at all times. And again, the Voltorbs just coming in randomly, it will make for some confusion and like make you like double think where you're going. But I still stand by the fact that this will be easy if you have patience. If you don't have patience and try to rush it, you will lose this fight quite a few times like I did. But the moment I had some patience and just waited it out, easy fight. I'd argue you can switch this with Arcanine, but most people will say it has to be at least top 3, and so it is. Though it is the mascot of the game, the final boss of the post-game, and the god of Pokemon and pretty much all creation in the Pokemon universe itself, Arceus is not number 1 on this list, but rather number 2. Legends Plate Arceus is a force to be reckoned with. It's got pretty much similar moves to Dialga and Palkia and then some, and even though moves that's similar to Dialga and Palkia are much better than those 2 Pokemon. It's got a honing missile as well, which is pretty crazy, and even its sound effect is like pretty scary, but it's certainly not the best. For the most part, Arceus once again just stands there. That's a common trend with Dialga, Palkia, and Arceus. They just kind of stand there, But what's crazy about Arceus is that it will vanish into thin air, kind of like Giratina. So it's got all three of the dragons there incorporated into its battle, and it will perform a kind of shadow force. When it disappears, you have to turn around, look for it, find out where it is, and you have to dodge its attacks in time before it shatters time-space and comes out of nowhere. It's pretty cool. And on top of this, Arceus, in terms of the actual Pokemon battle, has to be the hardest one because it has Judgment and the Legends Plate, the Legends Plate will allow Judgment to be the type that is most effective against your current Pokemon. So if you come in there with a Hisuian Arcanine, Judgment will be Water type. If you come in there with a Hisuian Lilligant, it will be a Flying type move. So, and Arceus will change into that type as well. So it's pretty crazy. The music also intensifies as the battle goes on, and Arceus' attacks later on in the fight do get pretty overwhelming. He attacks by pretty much every attack he has in his arsenal at the same time, but you do have a lot of room to move around and dodge the attacks, which is, I think, the saving grace of this fight and the reason why it's not number one. And on top of that, Arceus just doesn't have many invincibility frames, so a really cool fight for the post-game finale for sure, but it's definitely not number one. The number one fight, I think, undoubtedly, unquestionably, has to go to the Lord of the Tundra, Hisuian Avalugg. This guy is a behemoth. Now, I seen how Avalugg looked in the leaks, but I did not see how noble Avalugg looked, and this was incredible. The guy is huge, like bigger than a mammoth. There are times in this fight where he does look like a mammoth, but even scarier. It's absolutely crazy. Avalugg, I don't know, man. See, I'll tell you. I think the reason why this fight is considered to be hard is because the platform you're on, you don't have much room. You don't have much space to move. You don't. So when it attacks you with those holding ice missiles, it's kind of crazy. Because you have very limited space to move around, you have very limited space to turn around. You know what I mean? And it's just very easy to get hit by these things. I struggled with this fight in comparison to the other ones. The actual fight itself, the Pokemon fight, is really easy. I had Empoleon with Flash Cannon, a Steel type move, quad effective, a special move where Avalugg's special defense is paper thin. Yeah, that's easy. I just hit Flash Cannon, it just one-shots it every time. But the sheer force that Avalugg comes in with during the action sequence is like unparalleled to the other boss fights in this game. Like, I think this is the one fight where you have to get the timing to be perfect. If it's anything less than that, you're gonna get hit. The other ones you can kind of manage. You don't have to be like really on top of things. But this one, if you even like blink for a second, you're getting hit. That's how I see it, and that's how many people see it. Because as far as I can tell, Hisuian Avalugg is the one boss that everyone has struggled with at least a little bit. And it is by far the hardest noble boss fight in Pokemon Legends Arceus. One of the only times where the Ice type will actually be a worthwhile late game boss fight. Thanks for watching, guys. Those are all the noble Pokemon from weakest to strongest. Let me know if you guys agreed with the list. Let me know if you didn't. And if so, how would you have ranked it? Let me know. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you guys on the next video, alright? Later.